Welcome to PredWings podcast, where Smashville and Hockeytown collide. And now your hosts, Rhett and Ron White and D-Law, Dan Lawless. Welcome to PredWings podcast, episode 81.
81.
A little bit of a extended break from the last show. We got a jam-packed show tonight. Our social media, PredWings podcast on Facebook, Discord, Instagram, and X and YouTube. We're at PredWings Pod. And you can email us at predwingspodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, we got quite a week. A lot to catch up on.
Yeah, and Beer League Minute's not one of them.
Wow, wow, wow.
So we can, I guess we can roll right into some recaps. We got a bunch. You got 4, I got 4.
Where should we start?
I think you got Vancouver, I believe. The 10th? Vancouver.
And that was on the 10th, which was a great game in Detroit. This game, Detroit came out and they look like the team that they had been for the last couple of weeks. They're on fire. They're playing great hockey. They're playing good together, and it's clicking for them. Lucas Raymond started the game off with a goal pretty quick in 45 seconds. And that's the first goal of the game, and that kind of was overrun the second period. The Red Wings just we fell apart. If you'd watched the game, we couldn't hang. Philip Hronik scored a goal. That was, the go-ahead goal. So that kind of stung a little bit because obviously, as you know, we gave him away for a first-round pick, which I'm still okay with that because we have Jake Wallman, who's not having as good of a season as Hronik, but he's having a good season. But Detroit just laid over in the second period. It was, embarrassing hockey. I mean, I don't turn off games. I threaten to turn off games. And that was one of those games I was like, I'm just going to turn it off. I just have no interest in watching this anymore. They're not playing. They didn't show up. They don't care. But the power play, which has been red hot, we're up to 45, 44 power play goals at that point. And, it clicked. Daniel Sprong just had a nice goal from Patty Kane and Joey Veleno. That line's been playing really well together. That's one of the reasons that they're really good. And, I'm going to get into this probably in my last recap, but there's one name that I want to talk about because I want to talk about special teams with Detroit. And one name that I want to bring up is Jeff Petrie, however you want to say it, Jeff Petrie. But I'll talk about him, coming up. But third period, Detroit came out. They battled. They got an early power play goal, and Rasmussen out front. That's where he scores his goals. Are in the front of the net. Good things happen when he acts like Tomas Holmstrom, and he does not do it enough. But he did it. He did it in this game, and he got a beautiful deflection, and tied the game up. Game ends up going into overtime with arguably the best team in the NHL. And Jake Wallman gets sprung for a breakaway, gets cross-checked in the back, ends up with a penalty shot. So, penalty shot in the game, in overtime, and he scores. Detroit knocks off the top team. And one thing with me is the way I judge the Red Wings, I don't care about Chicago. I don't care necessarily about like a Columbus. Like, I don't care about those teams. I want to see how Detroit plays against your Vegas, against your Oilers, against your Vancouvers. And they hung in this game. They showed that they're an up-and-coming and bright future team. I couldn't say more about this game. And again, I have to highlight penalty kill. Penalty kill has been huge for Detroit. They killed off 8 penalties in this game. 8 penalties. In this game, one thing that was different about this game is that the Red Wings not only acted like they belonged, they were physical. They never stopped moving. They looked like they'd been playing together for the last 5 years, and they're very capable of winning big games. They've proven that. They've shown that. So if they can just keep that tempo, keep that pace, and Lalone can keep that momentum in the locker room and in practice and carry that over, that success, have the Dan Campbell effect where guys just buy into the system. Because when they buy into the system, they can beat anybody. And it shows. But great game by Detroit. Wallman comes off with the walk-off gritty, which a lot of people don't know. There is a donation made to a children's hospital. I do have to verify which hospital it is. I actually just read that just before coming on to record, that every time he does a gritty, when he scores a goal, there's money donated to I think it's a children's hospital in Detroit. I could be completely wrong. It could be false information, but I think if that's true, I think that's awesome, and I hope to see a lot more gritty. But moving forward, we go into Edmonton. We start our West Coast Canadian trip, and there's not a lot to even talk about in this game. I'd like to say it was jet lag and the late start, but Detroit they looked lost. They looked this. I mean, it was just a complete turnaround from what I had just described against Vancouver. They came out. They got walked all over. They allowed McDavid to have 6 assists out of their 8 goals.
Career high for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a next level player. I don't care what it is. Like Moritz Seider, who I think is struggling a little bit in this little skid that they had. He's coming out of it now that they're getting better. But he's just playing. McDavid is just playing next level. Seider, which I was saying, is struggling a little bit in my opinion. I think he's had some untimely turnovers. He's been caught out of position. He blows a skate quite a bit. But he had the puck in the corner on a penalty kill. All he had to do was ice the puck, and McDavid just came down and took the puck. And Seider is not an easy person to get the puck away from. I will give him that. If you watch, Detroit play, he's very confident with the puck. Sometimes he makes bad passes, but with the puck on his stick, he's a pretty confident player, and I'm confident as a fan when he has the puck. And McDavid just came in and took it like it was nothing. I mean, walked in, took the puck, and set up just a beautiful goal. And then you've got Hyman, who had 31 goals coming into the game, 3 natural hatties. I mean, this team is just stacked. I mean, I can't believe that they even did that. But I will say, the Kane and DeBrincat, I like that connection. I just like it. It's has been successful in Chicago, and so far it's been successful in Detroit, and that led to a power play goal, which put the Oilers up 2-1 in the first period. So I mean, Detroit looked okay in the first. I mean, they played okay, but the second and third, that was it. They just completely imploded, leaving the slot wide open, not skating, guys getting loose. It was just a nightmare. Like, I'm not even going to go on about it, but this was not a good way to start that, get or continue into this trip. Not good. Then we get the opportunity to play Vancouver yet again. Yeah. This time we weren't as lucky. It was not a very good game. They didn't look very good. Lindholm, he ended up getting 2 goals. Detroit just, again, they came out flat. And I know there's a little bit of a revenge factor to, the Canucks coming out, losing that game in overtime. That stung a little bit. That stung because Detroit's still considered a rebuilding team. And these guys are at the top of the NHL, and they got stunned in overtime. I mean, an overtime goal is stunning. And let alone a penalty shot goal. So the Canucks come back, and they top Detroit 4-1, and everyone's like, oh, Zadorov, he was mocking Wallman with the gritty. It's like, okay, you have like 4 goals this season. you're useless out there. Your teammates love you because you're a big body, but your ability to score and hang, like, yeah, you know what, you can come back and say, yeah, I can't do that, I can't hang. Yeah, I'm not a professional hockey player, I get that.
Well, of all the people that tend to not do that is Zadora, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, but and it was comical that he even did that. It's like, listen, your city burned, your fans burned your city down when you lost the cup. Like, settle down, guys. Like, it wasn't that funny. And if you knew the cause, if that is the cause that he gives money, that's a joke on him. So, again, whatever. Canucks still won't win a Stanley Cup. They'll still be, when was the last time a Canadian team? Now, this D-Law, was it Montreal was the last Canadian team in the Stanley Cup, right, during COVID?
The last one in it or the last one to win it?
In it.
That would have been the COVID year when they had no fans and it was all
Right. And what's worse
that
about
was
that is that they had their own division. So they had to allow a Canadian team. Like, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. A Canadian team was going to represent in the Stanley Cup Finals because they had their own Canadian division. So, with that being said,
well, that's one way to get a Canadian team in the finals.
yeah, I mean, it is. That's, Toronto implodes, Vancouver's going to implode, but whatever. This was a bad game for Detroit. They've just kept, yeah, moving on. Let's just move on. Then we go into Calgary, who, Calgary has a pretty decent team. You can't say too much about Calgary. They've been playing some pretty good hockey. Their penalty kill is, incredible. They haven't had, I think they only had like 3 games this year where they've allowed more than one power play goal in a game. They're just, they're a decent team. I think they're playing pretty good. Doesn't mean that they're going to win the league or anything like that. I'm just saying that they've been playing pretty good hockey and they've got a good penalty kill. Well, Detroit needs to come into this game and they need to get a win. They need to get that shift going because they're still on the bubble. Even the last couple of losses they had, they're still right there in that wild card race. So they need to come out of this with at least 2 points on this trip. And Calgary was the game they did that. They won 5-0. One of the a little tidbit that I found out was that game was the 40th anniversary of Harvey. Do you know who Harvey is, D-Law?
Todd Harvey.
No, it's their little mascot thing that walks around.
The heck is that thing?
I forget. It's like a dog, I believe. But they so that's their 40th anniversary of having a mascot, and Detroit unfortunately came in and just walked their feet with it. And this game, I will say, got testy. It was a little more physical. It's Detroit put up 5 points. Enough said. Larkin had he's got 28 points in his last 28 games, so he's got a point a game. He's playing great hockey. He ended up, he got a goal that, from Patrick Kane. That was a power play goal. And then Robbie Fabry, one thing that I want to point out in the first period is where Detroit really excelled and really took the domination over this game was in the faceoff dot. They, out of the first 10 faceoffs, Detroit won 9 of them. And on a power play, Robbie Fabry back to Kane gets a power play goal. Playing great power play. Our special teams has been on the up and up. Our penalty kill has been, I think a big bright spot for the Red Wings this year. Now, what I wanted to mention was starting in that first Vancouver game, because Jeff Petrie, I've always wondered what is his role on this team. If he's just here for veteran help, it's time to maybe healthy scratch him a few times because I just have not seen anything incredible out of him. Watching him on the penalty kill was pretty solid. He is like a puck hawk when it comes to his stick. He didn't take any penalties. He plays the body well. He kills the puck well. Huge bright spot in my eyes. I always overlooked him. I thought he was just a body hot air out there, taking up space when we could call somebody else up to get them some ice time. But I see his value now. He can still hang, and he gets a lot of penalty kill minutes, and he's been playing great on the penalty kill. Let it keep happening. But yeah, Detroit's been playing good when they click, and this was a game that they clicked. Like I said, 5 goals this game. They played awesome. And to add a little bit of insult to injury, there was an octopus thrown on the ice, which is our mascot for the Red Wings, as everybody knows, Al the Octopus. Mascot's anniversary in the drain. I like this. Reimer's second shutout of the season. I think he came in and played great. He had one bad play that put him on the bench, and that was, moving his head from getting hit from a puck, and an overtime goal was scored and cost us the game. He's been benched. But this game, he rebounded very well. And as much as I like Husso's having a down year. He's not playing well, and he's broken. He's just, he's broken. But 5 goals on the night. Red Wings played phenomenal hockey. Got to keep that momentum going. We have to keep that pace moving into our next few games here and really, make use of this second half of the season and get that push into the playoffs. This is a team that can do it. I think they can do it. But we'll get into that. D-Law, my man, what do you got for our Nashville Predators? What do you got for our friends in Tennessee?
Do I have to?
Well, you don't have to, but I think our fan would be extremely disappointed if you didn't.
I don't think we have any fans.
I just hope we can win a game.
Well, so they come back from the All-Star break, had a whole week off from it. They're at home. Got the Arizona Coyotes, our nemesis as of late. And, of course, Connor Ingram. We all know him. One of the fails of the organization.
You've said that about Saros. You've said that about Ingram. You've said that about everybody.
Well, he was a casualty because of all the goaltenders we had, so they had to set him down, and we lost him in the waivers. But he got to start again. I don't know if he's a starter for the Coyotes or they just like starting him against the Predators. But
hey, a little insult to injury. No matter how it worked, no matter which way the game goes, somebody's going to be extra salty.
But I mean, maybe if the Predators would get some we might actually be able to put the puck in the net. They didn't get their first shot on goal against the Coyotes for the first 5 minutes. 5 minutes into the game, were they still in the locker room? Just a little side.
That's crap hockey.
Yeah.
That's crap.
It's pretty bad when your captain, a defenseman, is involved in 38% of your goals.
I don't like that. I mean, he's a great player. Yossi's a great player. I know he's aging. I know he's. I like him. He's a solid guy in defense. I think you hang on to him.
Saying that, he leads the NHL as far as a defenseman in that category. Dobson, I can't remember who he's on. He's got 37% of his team's goals, and Quinn Hughes, I think, is that Vancouver or New Jersey? I think it's Vancouver because I think the other Hughes is in New Jersey. He's got 30% of their goals. Or involved in 30%.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of assists, but they scored a lot. I think he's on Vancouver. The Preds, they finally got on the first 7 minutes on board first on the goals on the score sheet first. Thank God. Saros was playing good in this game. Otherwise, it probably would have been way over. But they finally scored 7 minutes remaining into the first. It was Ryan O'Reilly, so he's kind of heating up a little bit. But then, Coyotes came right back. The goal Saros probably should have had. It was kind of a crappy, No, I remember watching this game, but now that it was so long ago, I can't remember what that goal was. But then see that I just mentioned about being involved in almost, well, I don't know, say almost half, a decent amount of their goals. He got a power play goal, and before that power play goal, their power play just not looking good as it has been all year. So that gave him another lead, but then Caves, well, that's the way the season's been. You can't, you got to have like a 10-goal lead in order to win the game. It seems like, because if you have a 3-4 goal lead, it's not safe. I remember when a 3-goal lead was very safe, and now it's just like kind of like a 1-goal lead. It's like the teams can score 3 goals in no matter of a minute. And then the Coyotes came roaring back. They ended up taking a lead. It actually went off, and talk about the breaks. It just like off of two Preds, Nyquist and Shen. A Predator had gotten injured. I can't remember exactly who it was now, but Nyquist had to take his spot while he was injured, and if that wouldn't happen, it probably wouldn't hit Nyquist and probably wouldn't have went in. I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I mean, you can say that, but maybe, I don't know. But anyway, it did. He was out there, hit him, and then Shen went in. But I don't know if this is good coaching or bad coaching. Bruno, we all know he's a coach. He's just, during the whole game, throughout the whole game, he was adjusting lines. He would put Glass in Nyquist's spot. He would put Nyquist back in the top spot with Forsberg, and just mix up the lines throughout. I mean, this is in like from game to game. This is inside one game. It's like, how can you get consistency? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I don't know. I just don't think. I mean, if something's not working, maybe you want to change it, but why would you change it back? I mean, obviously, maybe that didn't work. I don't know. I don't know. It just seems kind of dumb. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's probably why I'm not a coach, but I don't know. But then, they're just flip-flopping game. Coyotes got another power play goal. They actually had a 2-goal lead, and, leads in this day and age are not good. The Penguins. What am I thinking? I'm talking Penguins. Predators come right back. Novak scores a power play goal. About time the power play scores, although they did get 2 power play goals in this game. Forsberg ended up tying it at 4 just because he's going to the net. He went harder than that. The puck was kind of loose, and he just batted it in. I mean, it was basically almost on the line anyway. It was just because he's going to the net. That's why you crash the net. Get those loose pucks. And then so this game goes in overtime, and getting the goal from an unlikely source, Ryan McDonough. Nice little overtime goal right from the slot. Nice little pass from Novak. So the Preds escape with a win at home against the Coyotes. So at least it starts second half, or sort of starts the second half, even though coming back from the All-Star break. Then they had New Jersey coming in. They started good. O'Reilly gets on the board first. Jack Hughes, probably one of the hottest players in the league, gets the game tied. Novak ends up giving the Preds another lead, so Novak's getting a little hot there with some points, but they couldn't stop Nico Hischier. He ended up with 2 goals in this game, so they dropped this one 4-2. Power play, but luckily they only gave the Devils 2, so they're at least staying somewhat disciplined. So they killed both off. But then again, the Devils did the same. They only gave the Predators 2 power plays, but Predators actually scored on one of them. That was the O'Reilly goal, the first goal. Actually, one of Heischer's goals was an empty net. It still counts as a goal. So then they just go into St. Louis. So this, I don't know if I missed the game. Did I?
Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
I talked about the Dallas game.
Yeah, I think I'm not the only one to miss that game. Oh! I don't know. It was just one of those ugly kind of. I don't even think they showed up. I mean, I know it was a home game and it was embarrassing. And are they the only team in the league that has those bad losses? I think. I mean,
it feels that way, doesn't it?
I could at least stomach a loss like that if every team throws one of those in the whole season. But I don't think anyone's lost by more than 5 goals this year. I may be wrong. I mean, they did manage 2 goals, but I don't know. I honestly, I didn't watch this game, and I don't want to go back and watch it. So.
Why not? You don't want to have some sad feelings? Like, you should be watching the game.
I honestly, I didn't watch this game, and I don't want to.
What was that?
I just hope we can win a game.
So anyway, they gotta go start a road trip. Although they're actually gonna come back home before they go to Vegas. So this one, this was just yesterday. Going to St. Louis starts the road trip, even though they're gonna go back home before they go back out on the road. Great start by the Predators in St. Louis, one of the hottest teams. Well, not one of the hottest teams, but one pretty decent as of late. Sisson's got an early goal. Power play. Still not that great. I don't know what's wrong. They were only 1 for 4 in this game. I guess 25% is better than no percent.
No, that's bad. I would. Or that's not bad. I mean, like I would be happy with that.
Well, their penalty kill.
Power play goal a game. I'm okay with that.
Well, the Blues was 25% as well. They actually 4 penalties each. Let's see, 4 penalties each. So that would have been.
Seems like kind of just it feels like a pond hockey game.
I think there was more. They only had 4 penalties.
That's what I mean. Like, it just seems like a pond hockey game.
One of the Blues penalties was really late, but let's see. Yeah, they were. Luke Schenn did get a penalty shot. No, he didn't get a penalty shot. It was Jake Neighbors got the penalty shot. It was Luke Schenn. Luke Schenn was the one that had the penalty. It was a holding penalty. I don't know how you get a penalty shot on a holding.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But Saros actually saved that penalty shot.
Doesn't everyone hate Saros?
He actually made a nice save on a 2-on-1. There was a 2-on-1 coming down in the second period with the game tied 1-1 because the Blues scored. They scored on a 2-man advantage with 1 second left on the 2-man advantage. That really kills. You're on a 5-on-3. You're just about killed off the first one, and they scored, so they're still on the power play. But they end up killing off the second one. But, yeah, they end up, that tied the game, and then I just mentioned Saros. He had to see a 2-on-1. Not sure why there was a 2-on-1. I don't know what the other defenseman was. Probably pinched in. But he had a nice save. And then Luke Evangelista, he's starting to heat up. He ended up scoring to give him a 2-1 lead. And then Forsberg rips like a nice power play goal. He's the one, he had the one power play goal to put them up 3-1. And then Luke Schenn kind of avenges his little penalty. They give him the penalty shot, even though they didn't score on it. I believe, no, I don't think he ever played with them, did he? It was another Schenn. But anyway, he unleashed. I mean, it was a cannon. That was actually his first goal as a Pred. So they gave them a 4-1 lead, but then the Blues came back, made it 4-2. So they're a good team, almost come back, and One for Ryan O'Reilly, a former Blue, ends up scoring in the empty net to give them a 5-2 win. Like I mentioned, one of their penalties was like was like really late. It was like night. No, what was it? It was at 19-16. So it was like within the last minute of the last minute of the game. Jordan Pennington. I think I just changed his name. Bennington. He's actually got a history too. Yeah, well, just check YouTube for Bennington. It's pretty comical. He ended up with a high sticking penalty. He was actually fined for this incident, the match, which was $5,000. So this will probably roll right into our suspensions. We got quite a few of them, but I just want to talk about this little high sticking incident. Video is on our social media, so if you want to go to our social media at some point after our show to watch it, it was a cheap little jab. Luke Evangelista was circling around the net, and he was coming around the net just before he got right in Bennington's on the post, and he gives a little jab with the butt end of a stick, caught Evangelista right in the face with the butt end of a stick, and it was definitely.
It's dirty. He's a scumbag.
Yeah, it was. He knew he was there. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to know. I mean, I know he doesn't have eyes in the back of his head, but there's a player coming around. He probably doesn't know who he was, if it was Evangelista or maybe, I don't know. But there's a player coming around the back of the net, and he just kind of waited. Probably felt him coming around, and he
it was totally. I mean, look at his history.
give him a little jab.
And unfortunately, if he didn't, it's still his history.
And I saw a little clip of this, and the Blues announcer, I don't know who he is, I don't usually watch him, he said it was accidental.
Yeah, it was so accidental.
And I'm watching the video, and I'm like, I'm looking, I'm like, no. The way he jabbed his stick, pushed it, he actually kind of pushed it back, too.
We got to add him to the list of jackasses.
I can't remember who the announcer was. It might have been the color commentator. I'm not sure which one it was. But then there was another video, and they had the Preds announcers, and he said it was Chris Mason. He's a color analyst. He said it was definitely. I mean, obviously you can't really say it was intentional, or because I'm sure they can get fined and stuff like that, but he pretty much said it was a planned move, and not so much in those words.
Pennington's trying to be like a new aged like Ron Hextall.
And if you remember Bennington from the Wild, he did that against the Wild. Like I said, you just go on YouTube and you can see all those. And he's got a history. And I mean, he got penalized. It was just a minor. It was late in the game. Probably wasn't really worth a suspension, especially being a goaltender. But yeah, I mean, he got fined for it. I mean, I guess it's only $5,000. So,
that's the max.
I mean, yeah, but the way the money he makes is nothing.
Well, that's anybody. That's the whole league.
But it's just I just want to say,
I would have been okay if he got 3 games.
Maybe a game suspension would have hurt him more money wise, because he probably obviously makes more than $5,000 per game. So I'm just saying, finding him, hurt him where it hurts in the wallet. But then again, a $5,000 fine for them is nothing. But so maybe throw him a game suspension without pay. I don't know, because I don't know if when a player gets suspension, if it automatically they don't get paid for that amount of time they're out, or I'm not sure how that works. If they actually forfeit, that money. Or what, but I just, eventually she didn't get injured on this play, but so it probably wasn't worthy of a suspension. But I don't know. He does have a history, so right there, that's probably worth a suspension just because of history. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of suspensions. So I know you probably want to discuss that state of teams, I think, or something.
Well, yeah, I mean we kind of went into we didn't talk about all the suspensions and fines. I mean, I think we should just roll right through that. What do you think?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I mean,
one of them was against Detroit. Zadorov, who we had mentioned, came across the ice, lowered the shoulder right to head height. Now, I understand if a guy is getting down or crouching or trying to avoid and just gets hit in the face. Like, I get that he put himself in the position. This was not the case. So he got 2 games for it. Well deserved, and a $39,000 fine, or worth $39,000 salary forfeited. So that was good for him. And then, should we go off on the? Are we going to talk about Riley?
Dylan. Dylan got suspended. I was actually watching this game. I
thought we talked about that one. Brendan Dillon on Achari.
Oh, okay, we did talk about that.
I think we talked about that. Yeah.
Grizz. I don't know how you say that for Boston. I was watching that game too. Grizzlick. He got a spearing. He speared Max Pacioretty. Yep. And I don't know if I can say it on the air. Actually, maybe I can.
Go for it.
I'll just keep it happy. He speared him right in the family jewels. I mean, it was like with the blade end. It was not the butt end. It was the blade end.
Yeah, we got.
Pacioretty did come out. That was last Saturday. That was the same day as the Wings played the Canucks. So they're. Yeah, I was actually watching this game a little bit, and I was not watching the Bruins because I can't stand watching that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't get suspension. Because it was
he got a fine.
He I believe he got kicked out of the game too. Yeah, he got fined.
Yeah, fined $5,000.
He was just a major penalty, so he was kicked out of the game for it. So that's right there. I'm surprised that he didn't get a suspension. I wonder if it's because Pacioretty came back in the game. I don't know if that had any bearing with the no suspension or not, but it was a pretty serious jab. I mean, anytime you get speared with the blade end of your stick is pretty bad, but especially in that spot, right in front of the net too. I mean, it wasn't like on the crease; it was kind of like in the slot area. And then another, before we go into the big one, speaking of Boston, another high sticking on the goalie, Allmark. High sticking a Lightning Assamant. I don't remember. Is he a rookie? That happened just this past Tuesday. I didn't actually see that game, so or the incident. I don't know if it was like the same type of play as Bennington or not, but it was a high sticking. So you got fined. Oh boy. That leads us into the big one, Morgan Riley.
Yeah, this was just stupid. And
so,
you know what makes it more stupid, D-Law?
I mean, I know
the fans justified it.
I know it's against Ottawa.
What do you think about the fans justifying it?
The Toronto fans, they're a bunch of.
I got a little news story about their fans. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
I mean, I know Toronto and Ottawa are rivals and everything, but that's just the way it is. I mean, and they were losing. I don't think they were even getting really blown out. I think it was like a 5-2 game, and one was an empty netter, which really set Morgan Riley off. So this kid for the Iowa Senators, I think he actually scored. I think the next game against the goalie.
Ridley Greig.
Yeah, is he a rookie?
I
I don't think it was his first goal. So he comes.
I don't think so.
He comes down on the empty net, and he's basically in the crease, and he lets a slap shot go.
No, he is a rookie this year.
So he rips the slap shot in the empty net goal, and he's celebrating. And then Morgan Riley comes from behind him and just absolutely loses it and cross-checked him in the back of the head. And I mean, maybe I don't know.
Awful display of hockey.
Maybe
sportsmanship. I mean, you can go down the line. I mean,
you could argue
idiot move.
You can argue maybe it was a little excessive to do that. You know,
it was. I mean, what Greig did was not. Yeah, what Greig did was not classy.
I
get that.
At least he didn't do what. Oh God, I'm blanking on that name where he goes in.
But you know what though?
Misses the net on the net goals, and they end up losing the game, and it was a playoff.
Yeah,
game.
but you know what, D-Law?
At least he didn't do that.
It doesn't excuse it. It doesn't excuse Morgan Riley's behavior.
If you don't like it, you don't go and do that right off.
It doesn't excuse his behavior.
Right? You're playing a division of rival Toronto, Ottawa. I'm sure they got to play again at least once in the season. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that was their last. I don't know. But you're going to play them again, whether it's this year or next year. They're in the same division. They're rivals. Maybe in the playoffs they'll play each other. You do something in the game and not a cheap shot. You just you pick the moment.
No, I get it. You gotta find that time. Like you don't do it then. That was not the right time to do it. That was garbage. That was garbage Bush League hockey. There's no place for it in the NHL. And now Riley should have a target on his head instead of Greig. I don't care. You know what? If Riley didn't do what he did, then yes, the next time that they played each other, there's a bullseye on Greig's head. You're going to take extra runs at him. You're going to try to check him every time.
There might still be, but you don't do it right then.
Because you know what? Now the Senators are going to have a target on Riley. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
he came up and gave a cheap shot on my guy.
While he's celebrating. I mean, that's another thing.
It's after the whistle, after the play. There was no need for it. You can be upset with it, skate by and chirp him.
I don't mind celebrations, but I don't know if he really. It's kind of tacky to celebrate on an empty net goal anyway. I mean, if you see a lot of these empty net goals, they really don't.
Who cares? Celebrate. Who cares? He's a rookie. He's excited.
But he wasn't. He wasn't really doing a major celebration anyway, like windmill or Superman, or he was just like, I don't even think he jumped on the glass. He was going on the glass and fist pumping, and his teammates were coming over to celebrate with him, and he gets freaking cross-checked in the back of the neck. And Morgan Riley only got 5 games.
Yeah, I find that ridiculous. I find that, and that pisses me off, and I'll tell you why it pisses me off. It pisses me off because David Perron went to go stand up for a teammate, not throw a tantrum and act like a child. He went to go stand up for a teammate, and yes, he got the wrong person. And yes, he took the wrong approach, and yes, he deserved the suspension. But you gave him 6 games for getting into a scrum and cross-checking a guy who had just put your captain unconscious on the ice where they needed to bring a stretcher out to help him out. So you gave him 6 games. Now you've got Morgan Riley, who's acting like a giant man baby, who is throwing a tantrum, goes out of his way after the play, after a goal, breaking every code of the game, not just one like Greig did. Greig broke a rule. He broke one of the codes. Morgan Riley broke about a dozen.
Actually, he was at the hash marks in the slot when he took the slap shot, not on top of the crease, but still.
Okay, here's the first rule. Riley stopped skating. He didn't care. He didn't even make an effort to try to stop the play from happening. So that's the first one. Blame yourself. Second, you don't hit somebody after they score a goal.
Actually, he didn't even celebrate. He was just circling around. He looked over and saw Morgan Riley coming at him, and by that time it was too late. He was kind of, yeah, he didn't even really celebrate. He's laying on the ice while everybody else is. I don't know. I mean, 5 games to me is not enough.
He should have gotten at least the same, if not more than Perron. There's no doubt in my mind.
Maybe
I
I'm
will not retract that. He should have gotten more games than David Perron got.
he was in front of him. He was like on the side. And he cross-checked him right to the head. So it wasn't from the neck, but it was still in the head.
Yeah, it was the head.
It was actually the neck. But he was from like on the side of him. But maybe I'm a little excessive here, but I would have suspended for the rest of the season.
And we'll also have probably Brad Marchand coming up as well.
Oh man, his head snapped too when he hit him.
Yeah, it looked like it hurt like hell.
And the only thing is I don't think Morgan Riley has a history.
But I'm just disappointed in the player's safety because he's lost it. He's out of his mind. He's got to go.
He has no history, till now. So that's probably why it was 5 games, because he has no history. I don't know. Maybe.
You know what? I take it back. Ridley did play last year. He played 20 games.
Well, he might still be considered a rookie, though. But I don't know. Am I too harsh saying that
not at all.
Riley should be suspended for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think that's a little harsh. I would have given him 10 games. I would have given him 10 because you gave Perron, who doesn't have a history, you gave him 6 for defending a teammate. Defending a teammate. Morgan Riley did worse. He targeted on purpose with a cross check to the head.
Well, that's
a guy who was celebrating after a goal.
They got less than 30 games left in the season. So let's see, 53 games. So they'd be like 29 games.
Yeah, you give him 10 games in my opinion. That's me. That's my thought.
Yeah,
I think that's absolutely fair.
He's got no history. Maybe 15.
You say 15. I'm still sticking with 10. I think 10 is a good number. I think that's fair, but that's just me.
And I think that is all suspensions, isn't it?
I think it is.
That was the big one. It seems like most of them were head hits.
Yeah. Which, don't get me started on that. I'm not kidding. It's one of those things like totally avoidable. Totally avoidable. You bring back the goons, this goes away.
Avoidable like the Zadorov hit.
Yeah, that comes in, and if he's got somebody... if he's got to stand against Ryan Reeves, I mean, he's going to have to go blow for blow. And he's a big boy, and he can hold his own. But that's all he's good for. I mean, same with Reeves. That's all they're good for. But if every team had that guy, you're going to be careful of these dirty hits. Like again, Marchand.
The face.
Throwing that elbow and splitting open, what's his name there? He played for the Islanders. I can't think of his name. Oh, no, Arvidsson. He played for you guys. It was Victor Arvidsson.
Probably did that when he was with the Predators.
Well, he split him wide open with an elbow. I mean, that's why I said Marchand better have something coming in terms of punishment. Because I mean, that's just cheap. He doesn't need to do that. He's too skilled. That's Bush League. But anyways,
and then the face.
But if that happened, what I'm saying is, if that happens, then all of a sudden you have to line up against somebody. And I've used this 100 times. If Marchand throws that elbow, then the very next shift that he's out there, he's looking over at I'm using present day guys, but like Ryan Reeves or Radko Gudas, like he's not going to be able to tail away. He's going to have no choice. It's going to be, listen, you're dropping the gloves, or I bust your face up while you try to run away until the refs can break it up. Like that's how it is. Like that's just how I feel. I don't agree with Peros. Getting back on topic, I don't think that he made the right decision there. I think that they were given preference because it's Toronto, and there is definitely a market in Toronto. I'm not going to. The fans are idiots. They've run every goalie out of there. They were insane. They go nuts on each other during games, which I'll get into in just a second here. But it's one of those things like if that was any other player without a history, they're going to get 10 games. I thought Perron getting 6 was a little excessive based on the precedent that was set. Because let's face it, being in the player safety office, it's all about precedent. You've set precedents along the way. If you've been suspended once and you get a second suspension and it's a head hit, I'm going to give you 6. Okay. Well, then the next guy comes along. Yep, he's been suspended. He gave a head hit and he gets 3 or 5. Well, wait a second. No, you set the precedent that it was 6. Why is he getting 5? Like, what's different in his case? Like, yeah, I get it. The circumstances might be slightly different, but if you're eliminating head contact, and that's the penalty in what you're reviewing, if there's head contact, there's head contact. Yes, there's more intent. If there's more intent, you give him more games. But in this circumstance, Perron and Riley were flip-flopped. Riley went out of his way to hurt somebody. Perron went out of his way to defend a teammate. And obviously he was trying to hurt somebody doing that, but he had a reason to do it, not because somebody hurt his feelings, not because somebody made him upset and they were going to lose a game. It was because somebody took his captain out unconscious on the ice. That's why. And he gets 6 and Riley gets 5? Like, come on, Peros. Like, wake up. What are you doing? What are you doing? It just doesn't make sense. But again, I think if that's any other market, they're getting 10 games. That's just my take on it.
I'm done. I don't have any more to say in this. I said what I had to say, and
yeah, no, I get it. We can't beat this thing to death, but that's how I feel. You want to get into some news stories?
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot.
No, there's not. I got a kind of cool one I want to lead off with, and you probably wouldn't know this unless you were watching the Red Wings game. But JT Compher's sister, I believe, had the game-winning goal in the PWHL game back in Toronto, and I know Compher wanted to try to score a goal that same day, and it didn't happen. But he's been on fire, Compher, and he had a good chance at doing it. But I just thought it was cool that his sister is playing professional hockey as well. So, that's kind of a cool little family thing they got.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was going on yet either. I don't know.
Yeah, it's starting to pick up. Like I'm watching the crowd. I mean, it was packed. It was full. The arena was full. I didn't expect that at all. It shocked me. So now, because the arena was packed and sold out, I'm going to have to try to watch one. Just see what it's all about. Did
they have more attendance in Arizona?
Oh, without a doubt. Just in the first bowl. Let's face it, college arenas that are bigger than Arizona's have more attendance. RIT is probably close to their attendance.
As long as we're talking about Arizona, I just want to mention, watching the Arizona games, on TV, when, when they're home, you can see, and you get, when you're watching games, you can, the background noise and everything. Obviously you got the announcers and everything, but then you got the background noise, and it just, watching the Coyotes in their home arena.
The acoustics are terrible.
It just doesn't sound. It sounds like I'm at a college arena. Well, it is a college arena, like an RE game or something like that. Not like when you go and you watch an actual NHL team in the NHL. It just sounds, different. The fans, you can hear the fans.
Oh yeah, the acoustics are way off. And I want to say, I don't know if it was agents, but somebody has gone to the NHL and said, "Listen, this experiment's got to end. It's awful. It's awful for the players playing there. The acoustics are off. Everything is off. You have to walk a mile to get to the ice. Like, everything is just a joke." So But this is Gary Bettman's.
No, I think
this
they
is
are
his
getting.
experiment child, and he's not going to let them go.
I think they are getting a new arena. I don't know if they're in the process of building it, but something's. I think they are going to get. I don't know where it's going to be, but I have to dig into that again.
Well, I can assure you.
I know. This should be called the Coyotes podcast or something because we talk more about them the last couple seasons than we.
Well, I mean, they're just a train wreck of an organization.
More than the Predators.
Well, no, but yeah, of course. I'm just kidding with you, but
at least they can win.
I just hope we can win a game.
Yeah, but the problem is that it's just a saga. It's not some Cinderella story. They went from a beautiful arena. They had fans. They had players. They moved the team. Some of their stars begin to like Shane Doan steps down, and they never got any star power. They never had anyone come back. I mean, who they had?
I think Shane Doan's actually in the organization. Is he? I don't think he's a GM, but I think he's got something to do.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I mean, he is the face of the city. But my issue is that they moved the team. Then nobody wanted to play for the team. Then the team is horrible for years. Then they move into a college arena where they can only support 4,000 or 5,000 people in the arena. The revenue's down. They're not able to pay their share towards the NHL fees. And it's just a joke after joke after joke. But Gary Bettman is in bed with this team, and it's ridiculous.
It was so bad they actually got kicked out of the arena. That's why they had to go to Arizona State. They probably had to beg them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
well, I'm sure they're paying them money.
But I mean, isn't that a joke? I mean, don't you see that as comical? Like something's not right with that?
I'm surprised they let them sell alcohol. I thought being on a college campus, they weren't allowed to, but maybe there's an exception.
Yeah, I'm sure they would make exceptions for it. But I know, like you said, we talk about Arizona quite a bit and their teams, and we should call it the Arizona podcast. Well, I'm not because I'm not Arizona. I don't like Arizona. I think it's funny to rip on them. But what I can do is I can ask you a question, and I'll answer a question, and we'll see where it goes. So let's talk a little bit about, we're after the All-Star break here. Things have kind of calmed down. We've had a few games since the All-Star break, as we already went through. I want to talk a little bit about where our teams are currently and a little bit about what our thoughts are going to be for the second half of the season. Like just a general synopsis, nothing too crazy, nothing too in-depth. We got a few more news stories to touch on. But I'm curious, Dila, like where do you see Nashville? Like what do you think they should do? What do you think they're doing well? What do you think the outcome is going to be? Just talk about the state of the Preds at the moment.
I just hope we can win a game.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's the whole purpose of being a fan. You want to have a winning team. Like what? I mean, do you think they ripped the Band-Aid off and just finally actually rebuild? Like enough with this retooling crap. Like it doesn't work. It hasn't worked. It's never worked for them.
You moron.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, seriously.
Well, obviously, some teams can do that without being. Look at Boston and
Boston didn't do that. They built a team way
They never went to a rebuild, and then there's a couple other teams that never sell out.
Before they had Chara and all those guys,
you get
Marchand. Before they had them, they were not good. They were not a good team. They were rebuilding back in those days. They were rebuilding the team that they have, and they've plugged players in.
As far as I can remember, they've been good.
No, they have not always been good.
The Penguins are not doing too good, but they haven't gone into rebuild.
Yeah, but they did with Crosby. What do you think happened
with
you and Crosby? No, not in the 80s.
There was only a couple of years.
So they were in the Stanley Cup Finals and fighting for a Stanley Cup Final for 10 years? No, they didn't.
You don't have
3 of the.
You don't have to be. You don't have
Colorado.
You don't have to be fighting for Stanley Cup in order to be good. I mean,
What is the point of the NHL?
well, yeah, but
What are
you
you?
don't.
I mean, are you just playing
you're,
to play, or are
not-
you playing for a Stanley Cup?
You're not going to win the Stanley Cup every year.
No, of course not. But that's the goal. Like that's when you know you've built your team to win.
As long as you're good, as you put a competitive team out there that.
I'm sorry, I'm not okay with that as a Red Wings
2 or
fan.
3 in the division.
You can sit there and own the division all you want, D-Law. I want to fight for a Stanley Cup. You can hang all your division banners you want.
I didn't say anything about winning a division. I said as long as you're finishing the top 3 or 4 in the division, that and by the time the playoff comes, you're one of the favorites. That's what you want, and you build your affiliates, your AHL and lower levels, to get your better players.
And how do you fill that?
You got to
curiosity. How do you fill that?
Through the draft, you got to keep monitoring these players, and if they're not, if you don't looking like they're panning out, you get rid of them and bring in some more prospects.
So, but how do you keep bringing? You're talking years now. You're talking years.
While you're doing that's it. So you start, and then as you keep doing that, and you keep doing that. So right now that's why you got 3-4 level junior team. You got the AHL, and then you got minor leaguers underneath you. So you're starting at 16, 17 years old.
So you're telling me. When you start getting more draft picks,
by the time they get in by the time 18, so you're constantly filling that back row. So you keep getting these.
Agreed. You made your point on that, but listen to this.
And then
what I'm saying.
While that's going on in those leagues in the AHL, your NHL team's gotten a mix of these younger players that are just about ready to make the to really start getting these 20 goal seasons and stuff, 30. I mean, you're not going to get 40 or 50 unless you're elite. And then you got these, and plus with them, plus you're going to have some veterans or some elite players, 1 or 2, because you're not going to have 4 or 5 elite players because you can't afford them for one, especially in the salary cap era.
Elite players are very hard to come by. Like that is not going to happen when you have one first-round pick every year. That's not going to happen.
Every team's got at least one.
Okay. But you guys, no, that's not true. That's not true, because Detroit does not have a Connor McDavid. They have a Connor Bedard. Larkin is not a Connor McDavid or a Connor Bedard. He is not an Austin Matthews. He is not. It's just not him.
They're not.
They're elite.
They're above elite.
No, they're elite. We're not just going to start making up categories. They are elite.
McKinnon is elite.
Yeah, he is. He's in that class. He's with those guys.
But he's not like on their level.
How can you not put him on their level?
There's another level above elite.
Okay, and what is that? Are we just going to keep climbing the ladder? You've got your good players, you've got your stars, you've got your elite.
Well, that's been going on for years, like Mario, superstars, Gretzky.
Okay, we'll call it whatever you want.
Messier,
to me, elite and superstar are the same exact category.
No.
Because I just I put Forsberg and Larkin on the same exact category. They're on the same level. Whatever you want to call that, call it whatever you want. But Detroit and Nashville share that with those 2 players. Whatever title you want to give them. But my question is, how do you get that elite player when you only have 1 first-round pick every single year, or 1 second-round pick every single year? You're going to play the same hockey year after year. You're not building that pool that you went on so elaborately about building the depth. You're not doing that by adding 1 player and obviously you can hit anybody anywhere. But your odds are higher when you have more chances to hit that player.
But you don't need a first or second round pick doesn't. I mean, you can have players that are in the third, fourth, fifth round that are top players.
I understand that, but when you only have 1 every single year because You're just doing the status quo of, well, we've got a few guys, but we've got a pick around. You're not going to do anything with that. You're just not. You're always going to be on the outside looking in, always. And that's what you've been doing the last several years, and you haven't been able to like rip the Band-Aid off. Now, this is where I like what Detroit's doing is we're building tons of picks. We're getting in, like, look at our goalie situation. We've got 3 goalies. None of them are elite, but we could sell any one of them right now and get at least 2 picks for them. Now we've just added 2 more picks to our pool of people. Like that is how you build a team. That is how you build these dominant, Pittsburgh teams. You draft a Malkin, you draft a Crosby. Like right there, you've already boosted your team to be one of the best in the league. I mean, that's just how it is.
Just for, some round 4 picks. And I'm not going to go through a whole list. Nyquist was one, Johnny Gaudreau, Andrew Kopp, Arvidsson. I mean, there's some pretty good players.
So Gaudreau was the best of that class that you just said. Now, here's my question to you.
Was a 4th round, so you don't need a first or second.
I understand that. Where would you put Pavel Datsyuk? Where would you name him?
Well, he was a 1st round pick anyway. But Brad Marchand.
Whoa! Where would you put Datsyuk in that category of players that you had created?
He's elite.
So you put him in the elite class. He was drafted 171st in the draft.
But Marchand is a 3rd round pick.
Wait, did you hear what I just said? Because you had said that he was a 1st round pick. Datsyuk was 171st pick overall. That's not 1st round.
Well, that's like a once in a lifetime steal. I don't know.
Well, maybe that is, but I mean, you just named Johnny Gaudreau. Look at all the teams and all the opportunities players had. What I'm saying is that if you want to hit on one of those guys, you want to hit on all your players, obviously. But if you want to hit on one of those guys to come up and just be a difference maker, you need to have picks to play with. And the way you get picks is you start selling off the guys when you are not a contender. The Predators are not a contender. For how many years have they been on the outside looking in? And they just refuse to do anything. They refuse.
Why would you want to sell off your best players?
Because you're not winning with them. You haven't won a Stanley Cup with them. And they're not going to take you there.
So then the next year they light it up with 80, 50,
Who cares?
60
Who cares?
goals.
What does that matter? They aren't putting 60 goals with the Predators. They're not.
They could have done that.
No, they couldn't have.
They're giving up on them.
Different systems, different players. You offload them. If they are not producing on your team, it doesn't mean that they're a bad player. They might be in a bad situation. But if it doesn't work out, you trade them and you get as many picks as you can if you can't get another, player of equal or better status.
Well,
younger. You sell and you try to get as many picks. Like right now, I would be selling Saros. I would be shopping him right now.
They traded. He's going to be a free agent next season. He's still under contract.
That's why you trade him, because he's going to walk for nothing.
No, he's not. They're going to re-sign him. They traded Ekholm and got nothing for him. So that doesn't. So that theory is out the drain.
That means your GM is not very good.
Well, he's retired.
Yeah, because he was not very good.
Well,
it was a forced retirement because he was not very good.
How do you know this one's going to be any better?
I don't. We got to wait and see what he does. He's got to sell Saros right now.
No, he doesn't. We got nothing.
Doesn't matter. You aren't going to win. You've got Askarov. He's going to be just fine.
In the AHL, yeah, but not the NHL.
Why? How do you know that?
He's played a couple games in the AHL already and done nothing.
Yeah, let him grow a little bit. Of course, give him another year down there. That's fine. Like Kosa, he's playing phenomenal right now. His goals against is unreal. His win-loss is unreal. The kid's playing great, but that doesn't mean he should just come up to the Red Wings and take the top spot. It takes time. But when you got a guy like Saros, and you aren't going to the playoffs, and you aren't, I mean, you could. I'm not going to say you aren't. You could get on a huge run and make that big push into the playoffs and make a splash. But you're just not there. You guys miss out or are a first round bounce every year. Like, it's time to do something different.
Astros played one game, that 22-23. He was 0-1. He's got a 4.15 goals against.
So what?
He's not going to make it, and that was a 35 shots on him.
What was it? How many goals? 4?
Well, his goals against was 4.15. His save percentage was 8.86. The year before, he played 2 games. I don't know, he got a win, but he was 1.47 goals against, 35 shots.
Yeah,
that was
good.
That was 23-24.
Yeah, that's good.
Not as good. Not it's.
What are you talking about? Do you have any stats in front of you to compare it to?
2 games, 22-23.
No, I mean other goalies.
Tampa Bay's goalie.
Yes, he's not going to come out and be a Vasilevsky right now. Vasilevsky did not get out of the draft and just destroy the league.
He's not the future. He's not the Pecorine or
then
the.
Get rid of him. Then get rid of him. Why keep him? Trade him. There'll be 1,000 teams waiting in line to get a young goaltender.
I don't know about that. He's playing really good in the AHL right now, but
yeah. So you trade him then. If you don't think he's,
you're not going to get anything for him. You're not going to get anything for him.
Yes,
right
you
now.
would. You'd get a ton for him. He's young. He's playing good in the AHL. He's playing with the hottest team in the AHL.
I don't want to see all these players that've been there for the last 4 or 5 years, and you get to know them. And
I can appreciate your passion.
I don't want.
I'm not upset. I'm not.
They're losing now. Why would you want to lose with young players are?
Because they're going to grow. They're going to grow.
And then the NHL last, like.
Well, who's laughing at who? Nobody's laughing at the
NHL last at them. They play their backup goalies.
No, they don't. Detroit had that for the last 4 seasons, D-Law.
They won.
4 seasons. Teams have been literally playing their backup every game. This year, they have not. Prior to this year, they have been playing backup goalies against the Red Wings constantly. I did not take that as a laughter. I did not take that as mockery. I took that as Detroit's a team to give your hot goalie a break because we can win this game with our backup goalie. So we can still squeak out 2 points. We can give our starting goalie a break because look at Alex Lyon. He played I don't know how many games in a row, and he was playing fantastic, but you just burn out. You burn out. Mentally, goalies are different. They're just different in every aspect of the game. They are not like a Connor Bedard. They are not like a Sid Crosby or McDavid. They're not. It's a different breed. Everything is different with them. You should know that. You're a goalie. Like mentally, it's much different than it is being a player.
But even if you do, finish in dead last like Chicago's right now, there's no guarantee you're even going to get the number 1 pick because the lottery, draft lottery, and if the Predators were to finish in dead last, I'm sure the NHL would rig it like they do every year against them, so they wouldn't get the number 1 pick because they would give it.
But usually the top 3 or 4
are not. But the
number 1 is usually your elite, the top superstar. That's usually where number 1's going to go. Not always. Not always.
2, 3, and 4 are not usually all that great.
Okay, give me some guys that are 2, 3, and 4. Let's talk through this.
Unless it's a really good draft year, like I never like the last few years. There's only been 1 or 2 players that are really like Bedard level.
Yeah, it's very rare. You're right. You're absolutely right. But that doesn't mean the players that come out are
and then
good.
And then you got to worry about you draft them. You got to worry, will they even want to play there? They might not even sign there. So then you end up losing them.
99% of players will play where they're drafted. And I'm telling you, Chicago, I'd be worried about Chicago in the next 5 years. I would be absolutely terrified of Chicago.
We were back in the early 2000s, so
Chicago's in a rebuild right now. They brought in some vets like
they were just good in the early 2000s. Why are they in a rebuild now?
because they're dead last in the
2008 or
NHL.
2010.
Do you think these guys play forever? I mean, look at Patrick Kane, who was on that team in the 2000s, is now on the Red Wings. Just because you land on a team does not mean you're going to retire with that team. Actually, that's very unlikely. So, no, everything is different than the 2000s. That's completely irrelevant. They hit a plateau and they started to decline, and then they declined, and then they sold off Patrick Kane. They got a ton of draft capital for him. You know, they traded off Alex DeBrincat, got a ton of draft capital for him. Like, they started trading all these players and getting tons of draft picks. Yeah, look they got the number one player in the league, or the number one player in the draft, who's going to be a mess to reckon with here.
Well, if he doesn't get injured again.
That was a cheap shot to the jaw. Like, that's, you just don't expect that.
The
kid's still playing.
It was just one of those freak accidents. I don't think it was a cheap one like Zadorov and...
No, it wasn't.
And Riley.
It was questionable. But what I'm saying is Chicago has now added a huge piece to their roster. That is a building block. You now have so many options on what you can do because he's on a rookie contract. So he's not
but the Predators will never have anything like that.
No, because they don't trade anybody.
Even if they did, they
wouldn't. How do you? Are you Nostradamus? Can you tell me what the lottery numbers are going to be tomorrow?
Because they wouldn't. Because the players won't go there.
Why would they not go there?
Because they don't want to lose. They don't. Players don't want to go to Nashville.
Listen to me.
Name a player.
I don't care about that, but listen to me. You've got Chicago, which is crime-ridden, terrible politics. Stores are getting shut down because people are looting every day. Highest murder rate in the country. Dead last for their hockey team. Yet he still chose to go play for them, and he's probably one of the superstars to be.
That's because he got drafted.
That's bogus. I don't agree with anything that you're saying.
It was either that or not play. It was either that or not play hockey.
So if Nashville drafts somebody, they got the same choice. There's your resolution.
They can sign somewhere else.
So could Bedard, right?
So
could Bedard, right?
Like Jimmy Vesey.
I don't care about him. He's nobody. He's awful. Is he still in the league?
With the Rangers.
Yeah, whatever.
Lighten it up.
He might be playing good, but he's not a name like Sid Crosby. He's not getting nearly as much press as Connor Bedard is because Connor Bedard is generational. So you have a generational player like a Sid Crosby who joined with a very declined Penguins team. You had Connor McDavid, who was at a bottom-of-the-barrel Edmonton team. That's how rebuilds work. You start drafting young players who can come up and start making a splash. I mean, look at Detroit drafted Moritz Seider. He was a Rookie of the Year. Yes, I've been harsh on him this year, but he's playing good hockey. He is a huge piece to our defensive side of the game. He plays physical, he plays well, he plays hard, he plays smart, and he's not generational, but he's a very, very good hockey player. And we got him because we sold off everybody. We've gotten rid of everybody. And it wouldn't surprise me if Detroit sells off even more. But I mean, that's just how I feel, and I've seen teams do it. Detroit's doing it right now, the best that they can. We're just stashing guys down in the minors right now, letting them get their wheels, let them get the feel for professional hockey, and then we start introducing them into the league. And look at Tampa Bay. They built around Stamkos. Now that team is in a rise. And I bet you they start selling off soon.
Then they were going downhill, and now they're starting to get back up.
I still think that you're going to see, because I was reading trade talks about Stamkos going. Now, if you sell a guy like Stamkos, that tells me that you're looking to trade, you're looking to rebuild, you're looking to start this.
They're fourth in the division.
No, I get that. I'm not saying they're going to do anything this year, but the future, I mean, they're going to come to a point where they're just going to start declining, and it's like, okay, we got to rip the Band-Aid off, and we're just going to.
They did start to decline. Now they're kind of still hovering on the middle part.
Yeah, but you can't base it just on
games. No, I'm saying after their cup wins, they start going downhill again, like the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see where it all shakes up, but I mean, at the end of the day, I still see them being another team that's going to be starting a rebuild soon.
What about the Panthers? They're on a 9-game road winning streak.
Yeah,
They're
they gutted their team a couple
they're
years ago.
more than that.
That's what I mean. They gutted their team and rebuilt it up. New
They
Jersey, they're in
they
a rebuild
they
right now, and
sold
they had
they
a really
sold all
good
their
season last
they,
year.
they sold all their players to Calgary.
Right, and they got a
But
lot of draft capital.
they did get a good player back, but
But again, what I'm saying is, you've got these teams, and that's how you start building a contender. Is you start to see how your team's evolving. I mean, it's not an easy process. I can't even speak on it because I don't even have any idea what the hell I'm talking about. I'm just winging it. But you got to, I mean, I'm thinking about Steve Eiserman, what he's got to be looking at. I mean, he's got to be in constant communication with scouts to see who's where, who's the next up and coming star, what's our opportunity to get that person, what do we have to do? Do we have a chance? Do we not have a chance? Well, no. Well, who can we land? I mean, there are so many scenarios. Like, can we go get somebody in free agency? Can we go get somebody over here? Can we go get somebody over there? Can we bring somebody up from the AHL? Can we put somebody from the ECHL over to the AHL? Like, you got to watch and see how these guys are developing, because if you're watching, it's like, hey, we've got some really good solid right wingers. I got to focus on left defense. Then I'm going to start looking at left defense. Like, you have to look at who can possibly come up and translate into the NHL. But the only way to do that is by getting draft picks and putting guys into the system. I just think if you're on the outside and you're looking at in every year, I'm sorry, I wouldn't have given Forsberg a contract. That's just me. If I'm David Poyle, I'm giving him a couple years. Say, hey, keep up the production. We can figure out something to keep you. But as he starts declining, he's out. And if he didn't like that he only was going to get a couple years, you trade him. Find a team that wants a guy that can put up 20, 30 goals a season. And
the Predators need that.
well, yeah, it's working out extremely well for him right now. One guy is not your team. You need support. And that's what I like about Detroit. But I think that the Red Wings came on. We had a bad skid in Canada. We're going to move past that, I feel like. Finished a good one in Calgary. But I think overall the team is gelling pretty good, which you expect here at the halfway point. Guys are starting to get their feet. Guys are coming back from injury. Unfortunately, Husso is out. But I see Detroit still making a splash. I don't see them making a tumble. I think that the culture has changed a little bit. I think, actually, believe it or not, some of that could be due to the Lions, because Detroit's become a city where they want to start seeing championships. Detroit's become a city where the sports has kind of taken over again. People are excited to go see these teams play. And I think that translates into the locker room. And I think that I think Detroit could be a team that could sneak in for an early first-round loss. I'd be okay with that, because that tells me that the rebuild's working. And that tells me, as some of these older guys like a Robbie Fabry moves out and you bring in a Jonathan Berggren, if he's still with the team, because they're talking about trading him for a boatload of picks. You bring up Simon Edvinsson. Jeff Petrie walks. Simon Edvinsson backfills. And then he only grows with the team. Probably costs half as much money. But I think Detroit's got the right depth in the right system right now. I think it's working pretty good. And I think Detroit could make a splash. I think they could come out of this and, if they don't, I think they'll be extremely close. I don't think you'll see an implosion like last year and many years before that. But I think Detroit's got an opportunity to kind of make a name for themselves. I'm excited. And that's not me busting on, Nashville Stones. But, what is that saying? Like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I just think that's what Nashville's been doing for several years now.
You moron.
I think Poyle just had one lucky season. And I'm not bashing on them. And I'm not putting them down. I'm not doing any of that because you're going to say I make fun of them. And I'm not. I'm not making fun of Nashville. I just think that they've made some poor decisions with Poyle. They allowed him to stay too long. And Now it's going to take Trotz probably 3 years to get out of this mess. This year, he probably won't do a ton. I would still sell Saros because now he's playing good hockey. You can probably get a lot for him. There's going to be plenty of teams looking for that number one goaltender, and he's it. Like right now, Detroit's got 3 backups. You actually have a starting goalie. Use that to your advantage.
And then we won't have a starter.
That's okay. Who cares? Lose. Losing's okay when you're in a rebuild. It
We
sucks
lose
and
enough
it
as
hurts.
it
And
is.
it's disappointing and it's maddening. It's upsetting. Like, yes, you're going to feel all those emotions and it's not fun.
I can't take any more. I mean, 2-1, 1-0, 3-2. Yeah. At least they're in the game and they're bounce here, bounce there, win. But I can't take these 9-2 losses. It's just embarrassing.
Yeah, a little bit.
And if you do
those
that,
happen every once in a while. Detroit has lost 8-4.
if you do that, you saying get rid of everybody, get rid of their goalie, there's going to be probably half the season is going to be those 9-2 losses.
Yeah, it's okay. They suck. It's not fun. You're going to get bullied.
Even
that
when
is part of it. That is a part of the cycle. And I just feel like you're stuck right in the middle. Like the Predators are flatlined while every other team is going up and down on the graph.
Even when San Jose was in their 15-game losing streak or whatever it was, or 14, I don't think they got blown out maybe once.
Yeah, it's all the Predators got blown out. Teams aren't going to get blown out. They just it's not like every game the Predators are going to lose like that.
It seems like it.
Well, of course it's going to seem like it, but it's not reality.
But anyway,
back to the news, D-Law.
Actually, a good thing that the Wild did. Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, there's a lot of players had their 1,000 games. I think we talked about a couple last show. But Fleury had his 1,000th game and 552 wins. And
I like him.
The Wild did honor him for those when the Penguins were in their town and their building, which is the first team. So I thought that was a very class move. And they obviously had it planned for that date because they're in different conferences, so they only play them once. And they could have done that when they played Vegas or Chicago, which they play a lot more often. So I thought that was very, very, very good on their part.
Agreed.
But speaking of Minnesota, I think it was that same game. The horn kept going off, and everybody was like the rest, and everybody they're like, "What's going on?" It did it twice in the final 4 minutes, and in the first period, and it was no goal. You know how sometimes they blow the horn when there's a goal and they don't miss it and they got to go back and review it. It wasn't none of that. So apparently it was just an inadvertent horn going on. I got stuck. I know one of the rinks there that I do scorekeeping for last year. It did the same. It was doing the same thing where I was like, "What the heck's going on with this?" So I just thought that was kind of funny that it actually happens in an NHL. I guess technology is. Speaking of the Penguins, this was against the Panthers. Now I thought that if it gets a high stick, it gets played with a high stick. Obviously, the player can't touch it, or else it'll be called dead. But I thought if it touched the other team, it was okay. So they disallowed a goal after it hit 2 Panthers after the Penguins. The Penguins knocked it in with a high stick, but it touched 2 Panthers before it went in, before the Penguins touched it. So I don't understand. Apparently they need possession. I don't know. So that's all I got for that. For the news, I think we can roll into the PredWings 10.
Yeah. Want me to kick mine off quick?
Yeah.
So I just read through mine because it changes so easily, and I don't want to draw it out too long and say, oh, well, this and this and this and this. Three. So I've got Vancouver on top, not just because they beat Detroit recently and did the gritty against us, but I've got Vancouver, the Rangers, who I thought have been coming up pretty strong, Florida, Boston, Colorado, Winnipeg, F Dallas, Carolina, Vegas, and unfortunately Toronto. And speaking of Toronto, I just want to add one thing, D-Lo. I forgot to mention this. I don't know if you saw this or not. But at the Toronto game, when Austin Matthews had his hat trick, one Toronto fan stands up. He looks like Peter Griffin.
I saw that on social media.
Grabs the guy's hat in front of him and throws it on the ice. It's like,
Was there a fight?
That's not
They're
even...
both Leafs fans. I'm like,
it's like they hate each other. I mean, they're the most defunct. They're the most defunct freaking team I have ever met in my life.
How much did that guy have to drink?
Not enough, Peter Griffin.
I wonder what that guy did.
I would have punched him right in his mouth.
Oh,
He'd have been spitting chiclets.
No, don't be mentioning that. No, they're not paying us.
No, I'm not endorsing them. Chiclets are your teeth.
Yeah, I know.
Chiclets.
I know.
I would have hit him square in the mouth for doing that. And then I would have been like, you go out there and get my goddamn hat. Go out there. I'll hit you again. Go get it. You flag him down, pull off your shirt, make a scene, whatever you got to do, fat boy, but go out there and freaking get my hat. If I wanted to throw the goddamn thing, I would have done it myself.
You're right.
But they hate each other. I mean, come on.
All right. Any special mentions? I don't want.
I'd like to say Detroit. I want to keep them in there because they're in the wild card bubble. You know, they had a few games down, but they had a huge win against Calgary. So I'm going to keep them as an honorable special mention.
All right. Well, I got Vancouver on top just because they're playing really well, except for that one game against Detroit, which kind of laid in the egg on that one. Then I got Edmonton, the Rangers, Vegas, I got them back. Boston, Carolina, I got them actually sliding a little bit. Florida, I got Tampa Bay back in. They've had some good key wins. The Kings, they've been up and down, but they just had a couple key wins. Colorado, they're starting to win again. They're getting dangerous. And I got Winnipeg and Dallas dropping out, not just because of the Dallas win, just because there was no room for anybody else in the top 10. I just want to mention Detroit. You know, they're in a wild card spot. Calgary, they're very quiet team. They're sneaking in. And then the Blues. They're another quiet team. They're actually in a wild card spot.
Yeah, they've kind of turned their season.
The Predators are right behind them of that win, but they're holding on to that wild card spot, or just 4 behind the Kings. So watch out for the St. Louis Blues. And that's it for my PredWings 10. Do the Admirals update real quick. Griffin's Admirals, they got their streak hit 16. Askarov got a shutout their last game 4-0 against the Moose, the Manitoba Moose, and they beat Chicago as well 5-2. So yeah, that just they're rolling, and you know the Predators recalled Jankowski. They did send him back down. They sent Tomasino. They set Tomasino down to get him confidence.
Okay.
So
it happens.
Whatever that is. So I think the Griffins are pretty hot too, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean they're 7-0-1 with 2 overtime wins in their last 10. So I mean they're playing pretty good right now. They've they're 1 game behind the Admirals, but 1 up on Texas with games remaining. Those are the only 2 teams ahead of them. But yeah, I mean they're on quite a streak too. Like I was saying, Sebastian Cosso is one of their top players. So right now he's played 22 games. His save percentage is .905. 10 wins, and goals against are only 2.76. And that number, I think, right now in his last 10, has been like 1.30 and like a 9.95 save percentage. So he's kind of finding his groove, but he's still not there yet. He needs to develop. But yeah, I mean they're playing they're playing good hockey right now, and I can't be I can't be too upset with the way that they're playing at the moment. I also want to throw in there really quick that Johnny Burgers has 16 goals and 22 assists with 38 points. Simon Edvinson, who I was talking about coming up and kind of taking over for Petrie, he's at 25 points. And then Carter Mazer has 23 points, and I like that. So, our youth are right up there leading the pack. So that's what I mean. Those draft picks really make a difference, and I think these guys are going to help the Wings in the future.
Sounds like the Predators with their young players in Milwaukee winning really right now too. So they're getting that experience. So
sure.
So I guess the picks. Let's see. You got the first Vancouver game right, and I got that wrong. I got the Edmonton one correct, and you got that one wrong, and then we both got the second Vancouver, the one at Vancouver, correct. And I got the Calgary one wrong, and you got that one correct. So let's roll into your pick, starting with looks like Seattle on the 19th.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the win on that one. They've kept to the West Coast. They're keeping that schedule. I'm going to the win there, and then I think they're going to lose to Colorado at home, unfortunately. But I do think that they will beat St. Louis, and I think that they'll beat Chicago. So I'm going to go win-loss, win-win against, respectively, Seattle, Colorado, St. Louis, and Chicago.
I think they're going to beat Seattle. They're kind of a funny team, though. But and then I think they're going to lose to Colorado, and I think they're going to win. St. Louis is playing really good right now, but I think they'll find that's in Detroit. I think they're going to win that game and the Chicago game. So sliding over to the Predators, we both got the Arizona game wrong. We both got New Jersey wrong. I got Dallas wrong. I don't know why I picked the win. You got that one right. And we both got St. Louis right. So let's see. Our picks for the Wings, I'm still on top at 53%. And we're tied with the Predators. As far as percentage, yeah, we're 26. So that means we're at Vegas. Our road game is coming up. I'm gonna give a loss on that one. The Kings, I think we're gonna win that game. And San Jose, I think we'll win that game in San Jose. And then Anaheim, I think they'll win that game. I don't know why, but I think they will.
I think for those, respectively, Vegas, I'm going to go with the loss. I think they're going to beat the Kings. I think they're going to beat the Sharks. And I think they're going to lose to Anaheim. So I'm going loss, win-win loss.
All right, good week coming up. I think that's all we got for this week. You can get us on unless you got anything to add, probably.
No.
You can get on our social media, PredWings Podcast, Facebook, Discord, Instagram, and we're on X and YouTube at PredWings Pod, and our email is predwingspodcast@gmail.com. Well, thanks again for tuning in to the PredWings Podcast.
Good night, Hockey Town.
See ya, Smashville.